Hi everyone, this is Maria with the Bead Club. We're going to be making a bracelet today using our product of the month, the Tila beads. And you're also going to need some 11/0 seed beads, some 15s, and some 3mm pearls. I'm using a bronze color today. You can probably try this using 3mm bicones as well. It's not specific to a round bead. So I'm going to attach my stop bead. I'm going to leave a tail of about 8 inches or so I can attach my clasp later. To start, I'm going to pick up one Tila, one 11/0, one Tila, one 11/0. I'm just going to continue doing this until I have the length of the bracelet that I want. Okay, I've gotten the number of Tila beads that I want on my bracelet, and now I'm going to add my clasp. So I'm going to pick up 4 11/0 seed beads and my clasp here. I'm going to go back through the very last seed bead that I put on. I'm going to pull that nice and tight. Then I'm going to pick up 3 more 11/0s. And I'm going to go through the second hole of my Tila bead on the end there. And then I'm going to reinforce that by just going back through the first hole of my Tila and then through all those seed beads on that end. So and through my clasp, back down through that center seed bead, and through the 3 seed beads on the other side and down through the second hole of the Tila. Okay, now you're going to fill in the spaces between the Tila beads on the other side of your bracelet by just picking up one 11/0 and going through the second hole of the very next Tila. And again, one 11/0 and go through the next hole, the second hole, sorry, of that next Tila. Oops. And just keep going on like that until you get to the other end of your bracelet. Alright, I've reached the opposite end of my bracelet here, and I now have my 2 rows of seed beads in between my Tilas, if you can see that. So what you want to do at the end of this step is just to give your thread, the working thread, a nice tight pull, and then just make sure that your stop bead is snug up against your beads, because you don't want that you have any gaping in between your beads here. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to just go through the Tila, through the opposite, through the second hole there, and through the seed bead, and just skip the stop bead that I have there. You don't want to sew through that. And now I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11 seed beads. And you're going to do a little right angle weave around here. My thread is exiting this end of the seed bead. You're going to go through the same seed bead but from the opposite side. It may be a little tricky to get in between those beads. And then I'm just going to sew forward through the Tila and the very next seed bead in the same step. And you get this little circle of beads on the edge of your bracelet. So I'm going to show you that again. Pick up 3 seed beads, 3 11-ohs, and with your thread exiting this end, you're going to go around the opposite side of your the opposite side of your seed bead, go through the next Tila and the next 11-oh at the same time. And then you get another little circle of beads. And you just keep doing this same step until you've embellished along the sides of the bracelet. And I'll show you how to get over to the other side where you're going to do the same step. Okay, I've gotten to the end of the bracelet. Let me just show you. That is what that side will look like. And I've picked up 3 more 11-oh seed beads. And what I'm going to do here is to go through the last seed bead on this side and through the Tila. I'm not going to go through the seed beads of my clasp. Just going to pull that around, and I'm going to create my last little picot at the side there. Now to get to the other side of the bracelet, I'm going to skip the seed beads in the clasp, as I said, and I'm just going to go back through the Tila and the seed bead on the opposite side of my bracelet. And I'm going to create my picots along the edge just as I was on the other side of the bracelet. Okay, I've got both sides of my bracelet embellished with this little picot detail, and I'm just going to do the very last one here. So I'm going to pick up 3 of my 11-oh seed beads and I'm going to just stitch around this very last seed bead and just that seed bead. So now I'm going to start adding my 15s and my 3mm pearls. I'm just going to bring them around into view. So I'm going to be adding these beads in between my picots at the side of my bracelet. So I need to position myself so that I am coming out of this center seed bead here. So I have 1, 2, 3 seed beads on the side of my bracelet. I need to be coming out of that center one, and I'll be going through just the center bead on each of those picots there. So I'm going to take my needle through the first bead there, and then through the second one. Oops. And just pull my thread tight, slackened up a bit on me. I'm going to pick up 1 15-oh, 1 3mm, and 1 15-oh seed bead. I'm going to sew through the very next center bead on that next picot there. I hope you can see this well enough. And just pull your thread nice and taut. I'm just going to continue doing this all the way down. Oops, have two 15s on there. All the way down my bracelet. So I'm coming out of the center seed bead there. I'm going to sew through the center seed bead right here. That's kind of sticking out there by itself. And just keep repeating this all the way down to the end of your bracelet, and I'll come back and show you how to get to the other side to repeat this same step. Alright, I've embellished the one side of my bracelet with my 50 seed beads and my 3mm pearls, starting to take shape here. So now you want to get into position where you can come this direction to add your 50 seed beads and your 3mm pearls on this side. So in order to do that, I'm just going to weave my way through my bracelet. So I'm going to go across one bead. And I'm going to come down through that seed bead in between my two Tilas, through the next Tila, and then without going through any of the seed beads in between the Tilas, I'm just going to go back up through the second hole of that same Tila that I'm now exiting. And then I'm going to go through the seed bead there in between the two Tilas, through that seed bead there, and then I'm in position now to add my embellishment along the sides. So however you get there, just make sure you weave your way through your bracelet so that you're going to be stitching in the direction of the rest of the picots. If your needle is exiting this direction, pointing towards the edge of your clasp, you're not going to be in a position to add those seed beads and pearls along the end. So however you get there, just make sure that your needle is pointing towards the rest of your picots so that you can add the beads that you need to add along the sides. And once again, you pick up a 15 O, a 3mm pearl, and a 15 O, and you sew through that center bead there of your next picot. And once again, your thread is exiting the center bead here. You're going to skip on over to the very next picot and just sew through that top center bead. And you just keep going on like that until you reached the end of your bracelet. Alright, I've got both sides of my bracelet all nicely embellished with my 15 O seed beads and my 3mm pearls. And all I have to do now is tie my working thread off and add a clasp using the tail thread that I left before. In order to tie this thread off, we're just going to weave our way into the bracelet. So we're coming out of this seed bead here, and we're going to go through the next one, and down a couple beads in the center of the bracelet, and we're going to tie some half hitch knots. Now when you pull your thread nice and tight, you're going to get the beads along the edge of your bracelet tightening up. You don't want to pull it too tight so that it ripples, but just make sure that there's no slack in there either. And then when you're satisfied with how that looks, then you're just gonna, as I said, tie a couple half hitch knots here. There you go. So you take your needle behind one of the thread bridges in the center of your bracelet and pull a nice tight knot in between your beads. Stitch through a few more beads and repeat. Alright, I'm going to take my thread burner. I'm just going to burn that thread off. Okay, I have removed my stop bead, and I have my tail thread threaded into a needle. I'm going to attach my clasp, the other half of my clasp, by picking up 4 11/0 seed beads. And I'm simply using a jump ring as the second half of my clasp. And then I'm going to go through the very last seed bead I added on. So my thread loops around my jump ring there. I'm going to pick up 3 more 11/0 seed beads and sew down through the second hole of my Tila, and then you're going to reinforce that by simply stitching back up through the first hole of the same Tila and through those first 4 beads, through my clasp, back down that center seed bead, and down through the other 3 seed beads here, and through my Tila. And just going to tie some half hitch knots along the spine of my bracelet, just like I did with the working thread, the other working